أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وأطهر المرسلين شفيع المذنبين وحبيب رب العالمين محمد صلوات ربي وسلامه عليه وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Most Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, and may His peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We bear witness that no one is worthy of worship but Allah, and we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is indeed His final messenger. The best of speech is the book of Allah, and the best of guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who listen to the best of speech, the book of Allah, and follow its commands. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who look for the best of ways, the way of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and make us amongst his followers. يا أحباب رسول الله صلوات ربي وسلامه عليه يعلمنا القرآن ويقول في حق اليتامى بعد أن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وابتلوا اليتامى حتى إذا بلغوا النكاح فإن آنستم منهم رشدا فادفعوا إليهم أموالهم. The Quran makes a great deal of concern about young people who are unable to care for themselves. And specifically the Quran speaks about orphans. And we said in the past that the civility of any society is to be determined not by the self-congratulatory statements that that society says about itself, but rather, what does the society say about those who can potentially be exploited and be wronged? How do the people stand up for them? So the Quran makes it a point to speak on behalf of all those who are voiceless and to present the case of all those who are unable to present a case for themselves. And here in this case, the Quran is giving us a scenario. Here is a person who is being granted the guardianship over an orphan. For whatever reason. Maybe it was a relative, maybe it was a friend, maybe it was neighbors, whatever the case is. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, now that you are caring for this orphan, Allah said that maybe it happened that the family of the orphan they have left money for this orphan. Allah said, do not unjustly devour the wealth of the orphan because they're too young to know, or maybe other people don't know. So Allah is telling us to be our own policemen and say, do not devour the wealth of people like that unjustly. And then interestingly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, give them back their money. If it is theirs, give it back to them. And Allah said that you give it back to them after fulfilling two conditions. بَلَغُ النِّكَاحِ. They are of an age where they are able to move on. In this specific sense, the Quran said when they are of an age of marriage. وَآنَسْتُم مِّنْهُمْ رُشْدًا. And you have sensed sound judgment on their part, فَادْفَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ أَمْوَالَهُم. Give them back their position. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوهَا. And do not devour it بِدَارًا وَإِسْرَافًا وَبِدَارًا أَن يَكْبُرُوا. He said, do not devour their wealth out of being extravagant or rushing into devouring it prior to them, growing up and then asking for their wealth. In any case, this is not the point. The point has to do with recent events that we have heard. Terrible event. An 8-year-old girl from Yemen was wedded to a 40-year-old man. She is 8 and he is 5 times her age. He's 40. She was given to him in marriage. Man takes his 8-year-old girl and he does with her what a man is supposed to do with his wife at the age of 8. The woman bleeds to death. Sorry, I should not call her a woman. The child bleeds to death and she dies. Oh, that was an accident, unfortunate accident. Now please remember this. كما قلنا من قبل لا نريد مجتمعا خال من الجريمة لكننا لا نريد مجتمعا يبرر للجريمة. We do not aspire for a society that is crime free because that is impossible. But we would not want to belong to a society or a community that justifies the wrong. You just don't. And what happens after this is even more shocking than the crime that took place. Please keep in mind, it's one thing to commit a crime. It's another thing to justify the crime, and the worst of all is to give religious justification to the crime that just took place. So people said, by the way, wait a minute. Why is a 40-year-old man marrying an 8-year-old woman? And everybody looks at you and says, what's the big deal? The Prophet ﷺ did it. What do you mean? Well, don't you know the seerah? Aisha was 6 when the Prophet ﷺ was 53, and then they consummated the marriage when she was 9. You serious? Do you really believe that the man whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described as rahmatan lil alameen, a mercy to mankind, would take into marriage a 6-year-old woman? Sorry, a 6-year-old child? Do you really believe that? People look at you and they say, but it's in Bukhari. I know it's in Bukhari. Put Bukhari aside. Do you really believe that the messenger that we follow at the age of 50 would marry a girl who is 6 years old? Do you really believe this? It gets even more interesting than that. As they're telling us these stories, which subhanAllah we have no respect for, regardless of who mentions it, because it's an insult to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They're looking into this and they say, the story of how Aisha was married. Said that I was playing with my girlfriends when my mother Rumman came to me and she held me by the hand and she said, come with me. She said my heart was pounding. She's only 8, 9? She said my heart was pounding and she saw that I was very anxious, so she waited until I was done. She washed my hands and she washed my face. And then I walked into this room that was full of women, and as soon as they saw me, they started saying, Mabruk, Barakallahu lakuma, blessed and congratulations. And Aisha, as a young girl, she's saying, what is going on? Or as they say in the other narration, she was playing on her swing when she was told that she's getting married. Or they have other stories, and you listen to this and you say, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the messenger of Allah, really took a 6-year-old, a 7, an 8, a 9-year-old girl playing on the swing, and she said, you are my wife now. Inshallah, we'll come back to this one later. And then they quote a verse in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about what happens to women who have just ended a relationship. A woman in Islam, after divorce takes place, there is a period that's called iddah, and that is the waiting period to see if the relationship is going to be resumed or if the relationship is going to be finalized, meaning that divorce is going to take place completely. So how do you determine that waiting period? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it revolve in divorce cases around the monthly cycle of a woman. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, well, this is what happens. A woman who is during that time, she waits for 3 cycles. If the marriage is not reconciled, then, everybody goes their own separate ways. Then people started to ask questions. Well, what if she's pregnant? What if she doesn't get her period? What if this? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answered the question, and we read in the Quran, وَاللَّائِي يَئِسْنَ مِنَ الْمَحِيضِ مِن نِّسَائِكُمْ إِنِ ارْتَبْتُمْ فَعِدَّتُهُنَّ ثَلَاثَةُ أَشْهُرٍ وَاللَّائِي لَمْ يَحِضْنَ. If you have any doubt about women who are no longer getting their menses, after a certain age, a woman stops getting her menses, Allah said about them, it will no longer revolve around the menses, but rather them and those who have not gotten their period yet, their appointed term shall be 3 months. And people understood this, وَاللَّائِي لَمْ يَحِضْنَ هُنَّ الصِّغَارُ. Those who have not gotten their period are told about young women. So again, people would say, see, even the Quran said it. La ilaha illallah. We just recited the verse at the very beginning of the khutbah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغُوا النِّكَاحِ. The Quran is telling us that there is an age where people reach
in order to be eligible to get married. These people take this verse and say, see, even Allah said, and those who have not gotten their periods yet, that's not what the Quran is talking about. قالوا واللائي لم يحضن هي المرأة يقال لها في العربية الضهياء. It's a very common disorder amongst women. It's called polycystic ovary syndrome, which means that a woman has so little body fat that she doesn't get her period. Women who play a lot of sports, women who are anorexic, they don't get their period. So Allah is telling us about what if that was the case. So Allah said she will be treated also her appointed term in case that she is no longer married. Her appointed term shall be 3 months. But then we go back to the bigger insult, and that is when people say the Prophet ﷺ actually married a girl who was 6 or she was 9, and then this is how it happened. The biggest concern that people have, and please, I know that to some of you this does not settle well. Please think about it. Many times we are asked to believe certain things about our religion that either violate our intelligence or they violate our sense of humanity. But you're asked to believe it. So you say, my intelligence is just not accepting this. There are certain things that people promote in the name of religion that don't make sense. Please do not believe them. Please do not believe, because our deen did not come to declare a war with reason. If anything, our deen is a deen that calls for harmony and high respect and appreciation for reason. And then there are other things. They really just contradict our own sense of humanity. Just your own sense of humanity, it does not settle very well with you. When you have a 50-year-old man marrying and proposing to a 6-year-old or a 9-year-old girl. Wallahi, if one of us, somebody of good stature, would come and propose to your 6 or 9-year-old girl, wallahi, you would be offended. But the Prophet ﷺ did it. That's a different story. So you look into this, and sometimes people would actively say, you know what, I know this is Islam, and they don't believe it, but say, please don't tell my children about this. Or as somebody said, my wife is not a Muslim yet, I really don't want her to hear this story, because this is a terrible story. And people start trying to push these things aside, hoping that it goes away. And you think that, this is not a topic that is worthy of a khutbah, but you see that people's deen is shaken so bad because they say, look man, my own sense of humanity, this is not settling well with it, what do I do about it? So I'm telling you again, the deen is here to create a sense of harmony between our intellect, our hearts, and our sense of humanity. Well, how do you deal with the fact that the Prophet ﷺ married Aisha when she was 6 or 9? To begin with, it's not true. And we don't believe it. And we don't believe that the Prophet ﷺ married Aisha when she was 9. Wallahi, I don't believe it. But it's in Bukhari. I know it's in Bukhari. And please remember this, that many times, when you hear certain narrations about the Prophet ﷺ, and we have respect for the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ and the great scholars, Bukhari, we all respect and love that. But remember, narrations are not to be treated like the Quran. Quran is one thing, the narrations are open to discussion. They're open to looking into. And they're also open to be rejected. And sometimes on the basis of common sense. Give you an example. One time, somebody came to Aisha, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, قال ابن عمر يقطع صلاة الرجل ثلاثا. He said 3 things would cause a man's prayer to be null. Is you are praying, 3 things, if they come in front of you, they would cause your prayers to be null and invalidate your prayers. Listen to what they are. Al-himaru, a donkey, if a donkey passes in front of you, your prayers are no good. Wal-kalb, a dog, has to be a black dog. Wal-kalb al-aswad. Okay? And number 3, he said, wal-mar'a, and a woman. So if a dog, a donkey, or a woman passes in front of you as you're doing your prayers are invalidated. Somebody said, Ibn Umar narrated this to Aisha. Aisha said, أجعلنا ابن عمر مع الحمر والكلاب? Aisha immediately said, wait a minute, Ibn Umar is putting us in the same category as the dogs and the donkeys. She didn't go back and say, well, let me ask the Prophet. She immediately rejected it on the spot, on the sense, on the grounds of common sense. You just don't. And by the way, this story is in Bukhari as well. So what happens? The Prophet ﷺ did not marry Aisha when she was 6 or 9 years old. Give you some examples. Aisha tells us in Bukhari, قالت نزلت سورة القمر وسمعت قول الله جل وعلا بل الساعة موعدهم والساعة أدهى وأمر وأنا جارية. She said, I still remember as a young girl playing when Surah Al-Qamar was revealed, and I specifically remember the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the hour is going to be their appointed time, and the hour shall be more grievous, and the hour shall be more bitter. Good. So we look into Surah Al-Qamar. Surah Al-Qamar happens to be Surah number 56 in the Quran, في الترتيب, in order, and Surah number 37 in Revelation. Surah Al-Qamar was revealed in Mecca, 5 years prior to the migration of the Prophet ﷺ to Medina. The term جارية قالوا هي من كانت ما بعد 11 سنة. The term that she used when I was a young girl, جارية, is reference to any girl who is beyond 11, 12, 13 years old. The Prophet ﷺ married Aisha when he was in Medina, a year after that in Medina. So that will be 5 years prior. If she is 13, it means that she was 18 a year, then she is 19. Not that only, Asma bint Abi Bakr. Asma is the older sister of Aisha. She said, أنا أسن من عائشة ب10 سنين. She said, I am older than my sister Aisha by 10 years. Consensus amongst historians, إجماع المؤرخين، قال توفيت أسماء سنة 73 من الهجرة وعمرها 100 سنة. Consensus amongst historians is that Asma died at the age of 100 in the 73 years of Hijrah. 73 years of Hijrah. So I want to know, how old was Asma at the time of Hijrah? Simple math. 100 minus 73. What is it? 27. If she is 10 years older than Aisha, how old is Aisha? 17. Are you following? We say, you mean to tell us you are more knowledgeable than Bukhari? Do you mean to tell us that Bukhari didn't know this? See, when you personalize like this, wallahi, we lose out. The point is, our loyalty is not to people. Our loyalty is to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why people say, a simple mistake was made. Simple mistake was made. How is that mistake? قال أخطأ الناس قال ولدت عائشة قبل البعثة ولا قبل الهجرة. Simple mistake. Said that Aisha was born prior to the migration or prior to prophethood. Prior to prophethood. This makes more sense. Aisha is 5 years younger than Fatima, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. Fatima was born when the Prophet ﷺ was 35. Are you following what's happening, my brothers and sisters? Now, then when the Prophet ﷺ became a messenger of Allah, he was 40. So Aisha was born 5 years, not prior to Hijrah, but rather 5 years prior to Bi'atha of the Prophet ﷺ. And that is how we say, we can comfortably say, Wallahi, the Prophet ﷺ did not marry Aisha when she was 6, 7, 8, or 9. Another point. Sometimes when we get so desperate and you're trying to defend the undefendable, here is what most of us say. But see, you've got to understand this in a cultural context. See, culturally back then, people got married when they were that age. You know what? Even my own mother, she got married when she was 14, and I had an aunt that married as she was 13. Let me tell you this. Islam has respect for culture. But culture is never to be used in order to justify the wrong. In my culture, we beat women. I'm sorry, your culture is messed up. As simple as this. You never say that my culture does this, therefore it's okay. Ya akhi, this makes us morally relativist. And that is unacceptable. Relativism is in sense of beauty, the sense of how they display generosity. That is acceptable. But people go back and they say, culturally speaking, culturally speaking, at any given time, anytime a 50-year-old man desires a 6-year-old girl, there is something wrong with that person. I don't care which culture that person belongs to, there is something grossly wrong with that person. And the sad part is, amongst Muslim jurists, أجمع السنة والشيعة على جواز زواج القاصر وإن كان عمرها سنتين. Sunni scholars, Shia scholars, there is a sense of consensus amongst them that, you know what, you can marry any girl. Even, wallahi, I heard it with my own ears. A judge said, as young as 2 years old. So somebody said, you know, we get married for a reason. What can I do with a 2-year-old girl? Said, you can do anything except penetration. Wallahi, that is sick. Wallahi, that is sick. Especially when you promote it using the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi, this is sickness. But what happens is that we want to be, somebody has scared us. Said, if it is in this book, don't you ever mess with it. So what do? Then you try to manipulate, and you try to walk around it, and you try, but subhanallah, we haven't answered the question yet. Do you believe yourself to be more knowledgeable than Bukhari, and you are rejecting all of it? No, ya akhi. I just happen to be a follower of Ibn Shubruma, the great Maliki jurist. Ibn Shubruma, when he spoke about this, subhanAllah, amongst the jurists, interestingly, حتى إذا بلغوا النكاح, and until they reach the age of marriage. According to Imam al-Shafi'i, the age of marriage is 15. According to Imam Ahmad, the age of marriage is 16. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, the age of marriage is 18. According to Imam Malik, the age of marriage is 21. And Ibn Shubruma knows about what is in Bukhari and what all these scholars have said, and he comes up because he was an independent thinker, and he said, وَيَحْرُمُ زَوَاجُ الْقَاصِرِ. He said that marrying a girl who has not yet reached the age of puberty, he said it is haram. Another point. The Prophet ﷺ taught very clearly that one of the aspects of marriage is this whole idea of consent. قبول. You must consent to it. وعن خناس بنت خدام بن خالد رضي الله عنها أن أباها زوجها رجلا من بني عمرو بن عوف فأبت إلا أن تخطب إلى أبي لبابة وأبى أبوها إلا أن يلزمها العوفي حتى ارتفع أمرها إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم هي أولى بأمرها فألحقها بهواها. صلوا على رسول الله. This man, she said that my father wanted me to marry this man from a tribe group of people called Bani Auf. But I really like this man named Abu Lubaba. And she said that, you know what, the discussion and the rumors all the way to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, speaking to her father, he said, هي أولى بأمرها. She has more rights to her affairs. ألحقها بهواها. Let her do where her heart is. Now there is a sense of consent that she has to give. Billahi alaykum, at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what consent can she really give? Keeping in mind that there is a certain stage where we would say, look man, cultural diversity is acceptable at this point. And most people would agree. You know what? After 15, 16, we can see how different cultures spread around the world. But here's what will be shocking to you. Legal. Do you know what is the youngest age that a woman can get married in the United States? Here in America. The land of the free and the home of the brave. Do you know what's the youngest age? In New Hampshire, 13 years old. In New Hampshire, a woman who is a girl who is 13 can get married. Legal. You need to be a resident of New Hampshire, both the boy and the girl. They need to have their parental consent, and they need to have the agreement of a judge. Many countries around the world, South America, in Bolivia, at 14 you can get married. So you look into it and you say, you know, there is a point where we can all say cultural diversity is okay and healthy at that point. One final point, inshallah. يا أخوان تذكروا دائما العصمة للوحي وليست للتاريخ. Please keep this in mind. Infallible is not history. Infallible is revelation. Our duty, our loyalty is to revelation, not to history. History is nothing but a human attempt to understand. And sometimes we do and we celebrate, and sometimes we don't, and when that happens, then we are critical. And with this, we are loyal to our deen, loyal to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We remain respectful of our scholars, who would say, you know what, me being respectful does not mean that me being compromising. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى من بآثاره اكتفى. One of the saddest things is the way that sometimes we present the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and how by extension people actually take this presentation of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you put in the word Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam along with Aisha, the very first thing that you will find is pedophile, child molester, a child raper, all in reference to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And these people will be telling you, we're not making this up, we are bringing it from your own books. You see, and they would quote you the hadith number, it's in Bukhari, there are 7 different ways of quoting this. But let me just tell you this, and I really hope that this does not become too dry for you. The narrator of the hadith, the entire age of Aisha, there is only one person who narrates that hadith. Only one single person, Hisham ibn Urwa ibn Zubayr. Hisham ibn Urwa is the grandson of Asma. And when you look into Hisham ibn Urwa, he has never met Aisha. She was long dead before he was born. So they've really never met. And the scholars of hadith, they say that he lived in Medina for 71 years. Never told anybody about this hadith. It was when he went to Iraq and he lived in Iraq that he started telling this hadith. And then they say, in Iraq, people do not accept the hadith of Hisham ibn Urwa, including Imam Malik himself. He said this man was young and fit when he was here, but when he went to Medina, to Iraq, as some have suggested, that you know what, his memory was not as good. So the scholars of hadith would say, anything that he has narrated while he was in Iraq is not to be accepted. And this specific hadith, he narrated it while he was in Iraq. And finally, and please do not be offended by this. See, many times, we choose not to research. We choose not to learn. And you don't say, man, you know, this idea of the Prophet marrying Aisha at 6 or 9, I just don't believe it. Well, what have you done about it? What have you done about it? You just take it and accept it, and we don't do anything, and then we're bothered by it. And yeah, if you don't like it, if it does not settle well with you, do your homework. Read about it. Just go there and just look it up, so that your commitment to the deen is wholeheartedly, not half-heartedly. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase us in understanding, Ya Rabbal Alameen. Inshallah, just very quickly, September 27th is going to be the beginning of our youth group. Inshallah, from now on, I will be with the youth group, and we will start at 7 o'clock. So please, inshallah, encourage our youngsters, inshallah, to join us. Also, registration is still open for Pillars Academy full-time school as well as the weekend school. Sciences of the Quran class every Thursday between Maghrib and Isha, held by Brother Umar Hussein. And also, inshallah, we do have a class for the children, a journey through the Quran, every Tuesday from 5 to 7, and I do teach that class for children ages 13 and up. Sheikh Zuhair and Sister Amani, they have a Friday Quran class for kids at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Inshallah, also do look out for the, like we said, the Obamacare, and inshallah, beginning October 1st, you have to register for that, and we will have, inshallah, an educational session here in our masjid.
اللهم يا رب إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم يا رب فرج هم المهمومين ونفس كرب المكروبين واقض الدين عن المدينين. اللهم ارحم موتانا واشف مرضانا وفك أسرانا وعاف مبتلانا واختم الباقيات الصالحات آجالنا. اللهم يا رب سلم الحجاج في جوك وبحرك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم يا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله يذكركم واذكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر. الله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقيموا الصلاة.